starting to get back in the swing.
Press.
Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday. What are we? May 6th, 2025 at 10:01 a.m. Welcome to Harney County Court Session. If you would please stand and join me for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, so any late items for the agenda? No late items. Agenda approval?
I move to approve today's Harney County Court meeting agenda.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the Harney County Court agenda for May 6, 2025. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed? Motion carries. 3 sets of minutes to approve. We have a regular county court session from April 15th, 2025.
I move to approve the Harney County Court regular court session of April 15th, 2025.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded to approve Harney County Court minutes from regular session April 15th. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And we had a work session for fire safety on April 15th, 2025.
I move to approve the Harney County work session on April 15th, 2025.
Did you have
minutes?
I can second that, and then I just have a question on it.
Okay. A motion has been made and seconded to approve work session, county court work session minutes from April 15th regarding fire safety. Any further discussion?
Have we shared those minutes with the fire chiefs and Hines and Burns yet?
Holly, were the minutes from the work session for fire safety been shared with the Burns and Hines fire chiefs? Okay.
Yeah, I think you did tell me to do it. Okay. I will forward those to them.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed? And hearing none, motion carries. And a special session for the asphalt bids, opening the sealed asphalt bids from April 23rd.
I move to approve the minutes regarding the asphalt bids as presented.
A second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve special session minutes for April 23rd for the sealed asphalt bids. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed? And hearing none. Motion carries. Opportunity for public comment. Doesn't look like anybody's present for that. We don't have any old business. New business. I'm gonna move the court order for pro tem down. Justice of the Peace Richardson's not going to be able to be here, so we can get to it as regular business later, and move it up since Mr. Giles is here, so he can brief us on what he would like to talk about, and then he can get back to business if he'd like to.
All right. So just wanted to present to the county court, hoping for support for the utilization of Title II funds for 3 projects that have been approved in the past. This is past funding that's still in Title II, so secure rural schools. And the projects would be to fund the Harney County weeds management for treating weeds on Forest Service roads, invasives, particularly Venata and Medusa Head, and that would be for $80,000. And then additionally for the Sonoma Water Conservation District for treatments of weeds adjacent to Forest Service land on private property and BLM to stop invasive from coming onto private property in Forest Service managed lands. And then that would be additionally for $80,000. And to extend our OYCC program for the next 2 years and $194,000. The totality of what's left in the Title II for secure road schools.
Josh, I have a question on the OICC. So is that the youth one or is that a different?
That's the youth, yes.
And so, the county court has, given them funding every year for many years that we had fenced for that purpose back when we had a commission on children and families.
Yeah.
And it's about to run out. So we already give them between $12,000 and $17,000 a year. Is this a new ask?
So we have funds for them already, and we requested through Title II in the past years. So we didn't use any of our funds last year, and this would just be an extend for multiple years out, in an agreement. So it's about $97,000 for 2 crews, for OICC to work on the Forest Service, and so leave that.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily a new ask, it's just extending the funds, so we can do it longer.
Go ahead.
And on the Soil and Water Conservation District asked for weed management, what were the main weeds on that, or did they not specify?
For Harney County Weed Management, Medusa has been
No, the Soil and Water Conservation.
Oh, it doesn't specify, it's just any invasive weeds, annual grasses particularly, but invasive weeds.
The weed treatments, do you do that in-house or?
No, they do all that, so Water Conservation District and the Harney County Weed Management Association do all the work.
Okay.
You mentioned that this is SRS funding, but I guess I'm confused. Our SRS funding is specifically for roads and schools, so this must be SRS funding that comes directly to the Forest Service.
Title II for work on federal land, yeah. As you know, SRS was not reauthorized, so this is just previous year's funds that we haven't spent.
And for some reason, I don't remember hearing this information or asking previous years. Is this a new, and we welcome it, but I don't remember it being on the agenda in years past. Maybe it was.
I don't know how it was. We've done it in the past, so I don't remember ever doing it lately. Of course, our SRS funding was kind of just reauthorizations of other projects. So, which is very similar to what we're doing right now. I just think that everybody should be informed.
I appreciate it. No, I just didn't remember it being something we always knew you or someone would be doing to come and brief us.
And so do we need to take action as a governing body, or it's just informational so that we know what's going on?
Usually we like to have the support of the county commissioners before we propose a project. These projects were already approved in the past. But like I said, I'd like the support before we proceed.
What will you do in the future if they don't reauthorize SRS for those weed treatments? $160,000 worth of weed treatments, a lot.
Right. So obviously the request now is to extend it for as long as we can. Our agreements can, depending on the type of agreement, last 5 years. So we would just put in agreements, hopefully for 5 years, but after that, or after the funding is expended, I don't know, we're probably either gonna have to get that money through appropriated funds or some other method.
Is the 180,000, is that just for one season or is that for a couple of seasons coming up?
That's a couple seasons. You're talking about OICC?
Well, yeah, the 80,000 for weed treatment, Forest Service, and 80,000 SWCD.
Yeah, that'll be for this season and following season.
And next, okay. And until they expend all of it.
Yeah.
I was present at the CWMA meeting when the Forest Service and the BLM, SWCD, and Harney Weed Department all got out the maps and in short order divvied up the work they were going to do. And I thought it was real effective and impressive. So I would move to support the U.S. Forest Service Title II funds usage as described.
I second.
A motion has been made and seconded to support the described and proposed use of Title II funds for weed treatments and OYCC.
Yep.
purposes. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye,
Aye.
and opposed? And hearing none, motion carries. Yeah, thank you. Anything else?
No, I appreciate your time.
While you're here, just because we happen to have them come up, I got a couple of notices for prescribed burns beginning. Looks like in the spring and the fall. Are those all pretty much up north in the,
Correct. The only prescribed fire that we might do in the spring are some study units of the driveway, micro and trout units. And that is for our field day to train firefighters, our new firefighters. So we're not doing any large, on Emery Creek, any large prescribed fires in the spring. We'd like to reinitiate in the fall. We're looking at the Old Creek area, so just south of, the 16 road, and by Seneca. In that area in particular.
okay. All right, well, cool. I mean, I was gonna bring them up as correspondence that I got later, but since you were here, just a quick little clarification, that works. Appreciate it. Thank you. Now I'm gonna move to the pro tem court order. So the justice of the peace came to me and asked to appoint a different pro tem, justice of peace pro tem, as the two that we designated in January. One of which is the new justice of the peace up in Grant County, and is also new and learning the role as well. And again, this case is an eviction case, and they're cumbersome and have a lot of ins and outs to them and timelines and everything. So Judge Richardson had been communicating with Judge Connell out of, and I knew I was going to forget this, and that's why I was hoping she was going to be here, but she had a doctor's appointment she had to attend. So it's another Oregon justice of the peace. I don't remember what county it's out of now. But anyway, so she came and asked for it. The statute, ORS 51.260, Section 2, provides the authority for us to appoint any justice of the peace in the state as a pro tem. Any questions or discussion on it?
And how long is this appointment for?
It'll just be for this case. No, it won't. So it'll be, so it says a yearly record shall be maintained to account for time. So it'll be through the year as needed. But I would presume that she would use her other sources as well. This won't cost us anything. So there's no cost involved. The appearance will be virtual. So there won't be any travel costs or anything.
That's what our justice of the peace asked for and recommended. I move to approve court order in regards to appointing Ryan Connell as justice of the peace pro tempore.
I second.
A motion has been made to approve Harney County Court order in the matter of the appointment of Harney County Justice of the Peace pro tempore for 2025. Whereas the efficient operation of the Justice Court has included the appointment of pro tempore Justice of the Peace to serve during periods of time when the Justice of the Peace is not available. And whereas Oregon or ORS 51.260 Section 2 gives this court the authority to appoint a Justice of the Peace pro tempore during temporary absence or other incapacity of a Justice of the Peace for a period not to exceed 1 year. Now, therefore, it is hereby ordered that Judge Ryan Connell is hereby appointed as Justice of the Peace pro tempore for Harney County Justice Court for the remainder of 2025 calendar year. A yearly record shall be maintained to account for time the appointee serves as pro tempore, dated this 6th day of May, 2025. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed? And hearing none, motion carries. Next agenda item is the Oregon Broadband Office BEAD application. And I'm going to defer to Commissioner Doro and Executive Assistant York on the status and what we're doing with this.
Thank you.
And our online guests as well, Rachel and Joe.
Good morning, everyone. So I wanted to give you the whole deal here. The state of Oregon has officially opened the application window for the broadband service providers and other eligible entities to seek funding through the federal BEAD program. BEAD is Broadband Equity Access and Deployment, and that is the largest bucket of federal money that came to the Oregon Broadband Office to be awarded. It's a major broadband initiative administered locally by the Oregon Broadband Office and attempts to close the digital divide across the state. The federal government awarded Oregon $688.9 million in BEAD funding. It will support high-speed internet projects in unserved and underserved areas. Unserved means speeds of 25 up, 25 down, 3 up or less. Underserved means 25, 3 and 120. So in other words, a lot of Harney County is and underserved. The BEAD application window is now open and it closes on May 22nd. So it's open and it's going to close pretty soon. Harney County went through an extensive application process to get pre-qualified for BEAD. And thanks to Executive Assistant York. In the event that an internet service provider or a broadband service provider wanted to submit an application to serve Harney County, or in the future, if opportunities become available for Harney County and others to apply for funding for smaller projects. We were really encouraged by the Oregon Broadband Office to get pre-qualified, even though we didn't feel we had the capacity ourselves as Harney County to go after something like that. So we did. As far as we know, no internet or broadband service provider is applying for BEAD funding for projects in Harney County. Yet Holly York and Rural Prosperity Partners, Rachel Maddox Hughes is on the line with us, and so is Joe. They continue to kind of keep their ears open, eyes open, and try to determine whether or not there are any opportunities for Harney County to apply for BEAD funding with multiple partners or whatever that would look like, knowing that Harney County has no county funding of its own available to contribute, and that no internet service, broadband service provider is applying on its own to provide us services. So whether or not that can happen, Rural Prosperity Partners has been in conversation and talking with folks to see if there would be an application that would make sense that could include Harney County. And so don't know if that's going to happen, but of course the time is ticking, and Rural Prosperity Partners is willing to, help and prepare an application at no cost to us. They would be proposed as a grant administration and for, the planning, engineering, coordination work that they do. But so while Harney County, if this happens, we would need to provide letter of support and official reviews and approvals at key junctures, but we would not incur financial obligation nor have to provide significant staff. So it's unknown, but time is ticking. I didn't realize that there might be some opportunities. They've been working really hard to think creatively and appropriately. And so I'm going to turn it over to Rachel Maddox Hughes and then Holly as if they have anything they want to say. But the main reason I wanted to get this on the agenda today is to find out, after you hear from them, is Harney County Court supportive of Rural Prosperity Partners moving forward with development of an application? So, Rachel.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Darrow, and nice to see you again, Judge Hart and Commissioner Frank. So we have right now been granted funding from USDA Rural Development to help communities like Harney County apply for and secure broadband funding. So that is why at the current time there is no cost to you guys to help with applications. We are in talks with potentially Warm Springs Telecom and Link Oregon, who are diligently trying to figure out if they would be able to put in a joint application. So in this case, Harney County would not be the lead. The only thing that we would require from Harney County as part of the BEAD applications are letters of support. from the county as well as a few other local governments. So you have to have 50% of local governments who provide letters of support for applications. So it's not a done deal yet. As you guys know, BEAD requires a match percentage to actually do an application. And so we're working through with partners Link Oregon and Warm Springs Telecom to see if they can possibly come up with that match. So it's a little bit still TBD on whether or not an application would go through, but our goal is to help Harney County get better connected. It's part of our mission, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to do this. So we'll keep Commissioner Darrow updated. We should be hearing news back on whether or not these partners can move forward. I would expect before the end of the week, given the deadline of the BEAD application. So.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, in layman's terms, what exactly does that look like? If you secure funding, what type of projects would that be?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we say we work with Warm Springs Telecom and Link Oregon, what it looks like is they would get a grant from the state of Oregon to do what would probably be a hybrid solution. So there would be some fiber and some wireless. Again, it has to be affordable. We know that 100% fiber to meet all the and underserved locations in Harney County is just undoable. And just so you know as well, the Oregon Broadband Office has required us to put in applications, or applicants to put in applications by school district. So there are a couple of different school districts, obviously in Harney County. We would be targeting one of those school districts, so not the entirety of Harney County, with the idea that the Oregon Broadband Office has to have plans to meet all of the and underserved locations, and they would probably invite an applicant that applied for one school district to then potentially work on the others without having to go through a competitive process. That's our hope. It's not a prediction necessarily. But Joe, do you want to comment more on what projects would be and what they would be like if this were to go through?
Yeah, thank you, and good morning, everybody. It's fun to be here. I fondly look back on the time where Rachel and I got to come and present to you guys in person. Love Harney County, and so we're working hard. I would also add that and Rachel didn't even know that I did this yet, but I had a conversation with Charter Communications about the potential of a BEAD application for fiber to the home in Harney County yesterday. I have not heard back from them yet, but they said they might be interested in working with Rural Prosperity Partners in the county to pull something together. So we've got a number of avenues that we're working on. I'm looking at the map, and likely what we would go after would be Harney County School District number 3, and that's 601 unserved locations and 99 underserved locations. So total fundable BEAD locations of 700. There's quite a bit of density in that particular one. So actually, a lot of those would end up with fiber. The outliers would end up with a fixed wireless solution or some other alternative technology. It's important to understand that when we talk about anything other than fiber, it still has to provide at least 100 megabits per second download and 20 megabits upload and some latency, so delay quality of service requirements as well. So it's not that people wouldn't be getting broadband. The ones who didn't get fiber would still be getting probably wildly better than what they've got today if they're outside of town. And then Rachel was right. Our hope would be if we could pull together that application, then in not a second round, because they don't have time for a second round, but they will have to figure out how they serve the other school districts that no one else applied for. And so adjacent school districts in the Harney County area we would expect that if we got an applicant, we're working with a couple to move forward, that then the OBO would come back and negotiate with them and maybe provide some favorable application scenarios where maybe there's no match at all, or they open it up for other technologies to make it easier to serve those hard to serve areas. So happy to answer any questions. I'm kind of the technology guy, so I tend to get down in the weeds. But if you've got questions about the technology or what that would look like, I'd be happy to answer that as well.
And if Commissioner Frank, if you'd like, I don't know if I'm able to share my screen, but I can show you the Oregon Broadband Office's map of that school district. If you're interested, I can also just send that as an email so you have that information later if you'd like.
That'd be great, thanks. What's considered affordable internet access?
So the BEAD requirement is that you commit to not charging more than $84.98, I think, per month, all in. So that would be all taxes and fees and everything else, modem rental, whatever. Most broadband service providers are going to offer, and we won't know until we get this all done, tiered services. And so you would have like an entry level speed, like maybe 100 by 100 megabits per second. And then you might have a 500 by 500, and then you might have a gigabit or a multi-gigabit offering for those power users. And so that entry level we expect is going to be, and you get points for making it more affordable. So, whoever we're able to work with, we're going to encourage them to come up with a low-cost offering that gets them additional points for the scoring phase.
Harney County has the capability to offer those kind of speeds with our existing, what do they call it, trunk line or whatever? Is it, or would it have to be a whole new approach and access point for?
So one of the entities that we're working with is a middle mile provider, and what you're talking about is how do you get from Harney County to the internet exchange where the internet all connects together, right? And ours in Oregon is in Portland, and then there's one in San Jose, California, and there's one up in Seattle as well, and that's where everybody connects together. They call them internet exchanges. And so how you get to the internet exchange is called middle mile. So it's what we're talking about with BEAD is connecting the last mile, I always use the analogy of an interstate, and that's the middle mile, how you get long distances really fast. And then the last mile is your city streets where you get to your house. So there is fiber into Harney County that would support the backhaul that you would need to provide all of this to your residents. So there wouldn't be a need for an additional middle mile build that we should be able to connect everybody with a focus on the last mile build. Does that answer your question, Judge?
Yeah. I was just looking for our current capacity, that there's enough room there in our current capacity to provide internet to wherever out there on that last mile at those speeds that you're indicating.
Yeah, it's just once the glass is there, the fiber, and that's that long haul middle mile fiber. It's really just about the electronics on either end, So a single fiber can carry more bandwidth than the whole state of Oregon needs if the electronics are done right. So once you have that middle mile fiber into your town, then it's just a matter of making sure that the electronics are appropriately scaled to handle that.
My concern was to do all this work out here on that last mile,
right?
And then not have the capacity to facilitate it.
Right.
No, that's part of the grant applications are extensively detailed, like fiber routing, the routing to individual homes, all of that sort of stuff. So no one's going to propose a project without ensuring that there's enough bandwidth there and available. They're
Right.
not allowed to.
Right.
Thank you.
Sure.
The goal of this program is to equalize disparity for educational uses of technology in business. Isn't that correct?
To the home as well.
So the goal of the project specifically is to make sure that every household in America ends up getting connected at a minimum 100 by 20 megabit broadband. And the purpose for that, as we learned in COVID, is it's about more than Netflix. It's about more than online gaming. And that's what everybody was focused on before the pandemic. And then when the pandemic hit, uh, globally, everybody realized that having broadband access at your home enables you to do telehealth and telemedicine, online distance education, work from home, e-commerce, and so the awareness of the potential and the use of the broadband connection became more ubiquitous. And so that's where out of that came this big effort to say, okay, we need to make sure as a nation we connect every household in America. So it's not specifically about anchor institutions, schools, libraries, those places. This is about the home. And so businesses in the home are the target. Anchor institutions, you actually get extra points for saying you're going to connect anchor institutions, but they will not specifically will not fund connecting anchor institutions with this project. That's not what it's for.
And originally, when I started getting involved in all this a couple of years ago, my thought was our very much un and underserved areas, our frontier, rural, and incorporated community areas. Would love to get more down there, but with the cost, the terrain, the distances here in Harney County, and the fact that a lot of this funding is fiber focused and impractical and too expensive to get it down that way to those communities. We know technology and wireless and other things are going to work out, and already almost anything would help those areas. But now, frankly, I wasn't even thinking we were going to be part of an application. I wasn't really focusing on it anymore. We got pre-qual just in case we got lucky, and I see the benefit. So our city of Burns, city of Hinds, they're not all the way up there yet either. So there's work to be done here. We are very much a big part of Oregon that has not been getting anything because of our unique characteristics, and we're going to fall farther and behind. So to have a plan to at least go ahead and strengthen within the requirements of this type of funding our city areas is a start. And so I don't know if Rachel and Joe can pull this off, and Holly for all of her work with them, but this wasn't even on my radar a week and a half ago or a week ago. And then it's like, oh my gosh, well, let's see what the county court thinks.
I do know our current primary ISP provider here in Burns and Hinds does have a fiber project underway. It's probably got about 2 years until they finish it, get it to all portions of Burns and Hinds. So I don't know how that plays with other efforts.
Mhm. Yeah, you're speaking to MyWave.
Yes.
Yeah, no, and so we've actually worked with MyWave in the past when we were looking at going after Reconnect funding, and unfortunately, and we would have reached out to them around this application, but they did not go through the pre-qualification stage for BEAD funding, and quite frankly, like, BEAD is not going to solve all the problems, right? There is just not enough funding available to reach, especially really rural and frontier areas. they're going to run out of funding. There are still other funding programs available that will be coming up. So two of those funding programs are Community Connect and Reconnect. We expect those grant programs will be open well next year. So BEAD is not the last effort. It's just the biggest one on the table right now. So there will be other opportunities, and we hope to probably work with MyWave in the future if they're interested too.
Yeah.
But I know that MyWave is, and they must have funding or their business plan is set up that way that they're working on. Their ballpark estimate is about 2 years to finish their current project. So again, with these efforts, though, double on top of theirs, taking fiber, doubling up that fiber line on a pole or wherever. Is this going to double up those efforts? Just providing choice if that's what it is, but
It likely would. You likely would end up with some duplication of fiber especially within the Burns area. Some of it being funded by BEAD and some of it being funded independently, through MyWave. And listen, we worked really hard. We really like MyWave. They're scrappy. They do good work. They care. We really encourage them to pre-qualify. It's two guys in a pickup truck, right? Basically. And he's like, I
a
can't.
little more than that, but
Yeah, it's that he actually says that. Hey, we're like two guys in a pickup truck. Come on, and so we were hopeful that we could get them pre-qualified so that we could get them to the table on this, and he couldn't get there. He said, I just don't have the bandwidth.
And federal
time.
funding is challenging to
Yeah.
apply for, and this is federal, even though it's coming through. So
One of the amazing things about this conversation is that Rural Prosperity Partners, I feel comfortable saying they care about Harney County, and they know we didn't have money. They know we don't really have match. All right, we went to the great effort of getting pre-qualified for BEAD, and then now they're stepping in through their USDA grant, doing their job to try to help rural unserved applicants. And I just thank you again. I know you must be scrambling trying to get the concept and to then do all the detailed work. But I just want to make sure that we're comfortable with them doing that. It's really
well, my concern with a current local entity that's doing broadband and has a plan for the next couple of years, instead of focusing on school district number 3 or the outside areas that won't be serviced by MyWave, that's where efforts be focused at instead of duplicating on top of private industry efforts, whether that's District 2 or whatever.
Because
Judge
realistically,
Hart,
right now,
What?
school district number 3 has access to internet. The majority of school district 3 has access to MyWave right now and their wireless capabilities. I also find it odd that the cutoff is 100 megabytes because in my experience, that's 10 times the bandwidth necessary to do business or education, to use internet at home. I have less than 10 megabytes a second at home, and I can do any Zoom calls that I need to, any internet usage I need to. 100 megabytes a second is talking super high speed. And so that's concerning to me that if all of school district number 3 is already within the area that can be serviced by MyWave, that's where we're going to focus our efforts. And I also would be curious roughly what the cost is to provide service to these, we said about 700 underserved and unserved households. What would be the rough cost of running that fiber?
We don't know that yet. We have to actually put together an engineering and design firm plan, with the firm that we work with to figure out what those estimated costs would be. Joe, we did have the Harney County Rapid Design Study, which could look at the whole county. If you could bring that up at all.
Yeah.
And I'd be happy to show. Can I share my screen real quick?
You should be able to. Go ahead.
I don't have an option to do so.
There's not a shared.
There it is. No, there it is. There it is. All right. Send request. The request has been sent. Okay. 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 Let me do that. All right. So let me pull this up. Can you guys see the screen here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So just to give you an idea, Commissioner Frank, and I hear what you're saying, Judge Hart, and there is an option for us to, and again, it depends on which provider we're talking to look at the Crane School District, which is Harney School District number 4, potentially instead of this. But if you'll look and see, so this map is based on data from both the national level as well as information that was provided through challenge processes here at the state level. And as you can see, all of the red dots or the dark dots are the unserved locations, and the underserved locations are the kind of the yellow dots there. And so if we move over to the Crane School District, you'll see that there's about 440 unserved locations and then 85 underserved locations. So those are the areas that we're looking at. In terms of bandwidth, there's going to be an increasing need of bandwidth, and the 100/20 is the national standard for that. It is going to grow with time. And, most, if you have kids doing multiple things at home with homework and like you're trying to run a Zoom call, that sort of stuff, like 100/20 is kind of the bare minimum to actually make sure that you've got good connectivity to be doing multiple things at home. I can tell you, I have 3 teenagers at home, and when they all get online at the same time, it's a challenge to get good connectivity where I am. So, and I've got over 100/20, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't have the Harney County. All I've got is the Lake County one, Lake County
Okay.
School District. So yeah.
Well, one thing I will say about that map is Crane School District, Harney County School District 4J, it actually encompasses all of Harney County except for School District 3, because that's our high school that brings in from all those feeder districts. And so I think if we were trying to service the county better, that would be the school district to go for sure. Also, would you estimate that we could provide this service with this grant for less than $350 a household? And the only reason I use that as a figure is because that's what it costs to buy Starlink. And for Starlink Lite, it's $80 a month, which is below that threshold of 89 or 84.94. I just think in the most bang for our buck, I have concerns about laying this fiber. I believe it's going to be an antiquated technology soon. And so if we're trying to service our whole county in such a remote frontier county, I have to wonder about Starlink.
Some of the locations are going to be Starlink, hands down. Some of them are, but the low Earth orbiting satellite technology does not provide the same future proofing that terrestrial networks actually do. And Joe can speak to that more.
Yeah, and if we're looking at today, we would just hook everybody up with either, Amazon's Kuiper or with, Starlink. But we're not just looking at today. We're looking at how do we leverage this federal national investment for multi-generations. And the only technology that we have right now that can scale, and right now we haven't fully explored how far fiber can scale. But the only technology that can scale into the future to meet future demand needs, whether it's, AI or, 3D holographic, projections, or, there's been a lot of patents that have been started filed for 3D applications where you can do holographic virtual reality, and so where your Zoom call is no longer a flat screen, but you're virtually in the conference room with the people that you're having the meeting with. Those technologies can Starlink, any of the low Earth orbit satellites won't be able to scale into the future to handle that. And part of the issue is Starlink, just like cable TV, is limited and structured for download speeds. So Starlink often will give you a faster download speed and a slower upload speed. Upload speeds are becoming more and more important as we're transmitting as much data as we're receiving. And this call is an example of that, where I am transmitting the same amount of data to you, where I'm sending my visual image and voice to you as I'm receiving from you. So synchronous service is really important. Fiber right now, just kind of mainstream technology for fiber deployments is capable of 10 gigabytes to the home or the business. And so that's 10,000 megabits per second upload and download speed synchronous to the home. They're testing new electronics now that will allow for speeds of up to 40 and 60 gigabits per second to the home or to the business in anticipation of these growing bandwidth needs. If we look at where we were just 5 years ago, people were really happy with 8 or 12 megabits per second. And if you really, and Rachel's right, if you have more than 1 or 2 people working at your house, then 100 meg is kind of the baseline. Otherwise, you're going to end up with service interruptions and the little spinny wheel that says, you're buffering. And you may not notice this, but many of the video technologies will adapt themselves based on the amount of bandwidth that you have. So if you want a high definition video stream, you can't get that over 10 meg. You just can't. It'll do maybe 720p, but it won't do 1080. It certainly won't do 4K. So as the fidelity and the desire for higher quality video, whether it's for entertainment or for what we're doing right now, comes up, then fiber is really going to be the thing that you want. It is also the most reliable and the lowest maintenance. So because fiber is built as a passive technology, there's only powered electronics on either end. So everything in the middle is passive. It's super fast, it's super reliable, and it's also really secure. So I'm a big fan of fiber, and I think fiber really is the future-proof technology. At least of all the technologies that we know of today, it's the one that's going to be able to scale into the future for us. So the more fiber Harney County has, the better your economic development is going to be, the better the quality of life is going to be, the more opportunity you're going to have to bring new business into Harney County if that's what you want to do. Without fiber-based technologies, businesses just aren't going to locate there. I mean, they're just not going to do it. It's just too hard to do business without fiber today. So that's my spiel on fiber.
And I don't question all of that. It's just the duplication of effort in our District 3, other than maybe those outer lying areas where MyWave is not getting to or not going to get to.
Yeah, and I think that's totally valid, Judge Hart. And when we're talking to partners, we can talk about looking at the Crane School District instead of Burns and see if that is something that they would be interested in pursuing. I think given that MyWave does have plans to expand around Burns, maybe that is the best idea, especially if we're looking for county and other support if we put in an application. So I'm happy to make that suggestion to the partners that we're talking about.
And then, as I'm sure you're aware, there's fiber already between here and Crane. I don't know what kind of agreements could be, made or whatever to tap in and purchase time off of that line. But there's, houses all between here and Crane that could benefit from that line.
Yeah, and they'll look at all the available infrastructure when putting together. So the engineering firm will look at all the available infrastructure, and so will the potential applicant.
I think it's a opportunity that we definitely should continue to consider. I would just say for myself, it would come down to what the actual proposed project would be when we come down to it.
And we should have more answers for you all later this week.
Thank you. I don't know if once you have those answers, if you want to have a quick Zoom meeting with us. It's not a county court meeting per se. And Holly could be the point of contact for that, if appropriate. But I just really want to thank you for being willing to try to see what might be and help us out.
We're happy to help.
Well, this would be my ask, because you're having a meeting now, is that you go ahead and approve letters of support so that we don't have to wait for the next county court meeting to get letters of support. That if there's a project that you all agree on, that and we find a partner. I mean, this has got to work for the partner too. So, to invest in your county and be present in your county for a partner, it's got to work for them as well financially. And so, that's my only hesitancy with moving to Crane School District number 4 is it's 524 locations. So I don't know if that by itself is sustainable, from a maintenance and operations standpoint. We'll have to talk to the folks that we're looking at. Maybe, maybe not, by itself. So, we'll have to look at that. But, without the letters of support, you lose 10 points on the application. And so, it makes it harder to get those federal funds brought into Harney County for infrastructure, which is our goal. And so, I would ask that you guys consider going ahead and approving. You can put guardrails around that however you want to, letters of support for us as we move forward. And it would also, if there's an unincorporated community in the school district that we end up, targeting, the county would do two different. They would do a county letter of support, and then the county commissioners would also do a separate letter of support representing that unincorporated community. So in this case,
Crane, it would be the unincorporated community,
would
Crane.
be the one you would do.
And don't ask us why. This is the way that the OBO set it up. Doesn't make any sense, but you have to have 50% of the units of government that they have selected to provide letters of support. So if it were a Crane School District, it has to be 50% of the county, the Greater Eastern Oregon Development Corporation School District, the Burns Paiute Tribe, and the unincorporated community of Crane.
Yeah.
If we do approve to proceed with this, then we would have Holly York be your point of contact, and Holly, you can
Perfect.
generate some drafts, et cetera, for us. Sounds good.
So at this point, though, letters of support would be in support of what you've proposed for the school district number 3.
You can put guardrail. I mean, like we have to, I know it's hard to make these decisions without having all the data in front of you. I know that, like, we're still talking to 2 different providers right now. We can definitely talk to them about Crane's School District and see if they'd be more interested in that. So it would be letters of support for the applicant, which is yet to be determined yet. That's going to be an ISP. We're not sure if that's going to be Warm Springs Telecom or if that's going to be Charter, as Joe said he had a conversation with them late last night. So that's what it would be.
So, I mean, I guess letters of support, do they need to be specific to the project?
They
or
do.
Letters in support of continuing to try and bring high-speed broadband to Harney County?
It has to be specific to the project.
It does. So for the school district, the project district grant area, it has
So
to
it'd
be
be like
specific to
The
that.
county is supportive of the Warm Springs Telecom's BEAD application for Crane School District or Harney School District number 4. That's what would have to be the
Or school district number 3, unincorporated areas of school district number 3, something like that?
something like that. Yeah. We actually you can't exclude burns in the school district. So the Oregon Broadband Office requires that you you can do one of like 3 proposals essentially, but you have to have one solution that targets the entirety of the school district. So covering every single broadband serviceable location that they've laid out. Then there's alternative percentages of coverage. So for the Harney County School District number 3, and this is all on the map. I sent a link to Holly for that. Its alternative percentage is 64% of the locations, and then the other alternative is 42% of the locations. So,
populations that they can write separate claims.
and I do have to let you know, Joe and I both have to hop
Which would
off on
be
a call
alternate school
here
district?
No, so
in
with
5
the
minutes.
school district, they're gonna write one plan and then they have alternative.
Okay.
plans that can-
So their plan might be unincorporated areas or areas that are underserved right now.
Yeah, it's too expensive to do the whole thing, they would move to the house.
So they've got to hop off, they've got 11 o'clock meeting they've got to go to. I'm sure there's some more minor questions, but I would like to move that Harney County Court, once we're comfortable with more of the specifics, that we are supportive of Rural Prosperity Partners moving forward with development of an application.
I still have some reservations about duplication of efforts. Wherein it potentially could cause economic competition. I mean, and that's what America is based on, is competition, but it could turn around and have the opposite effect on our existing.
Yeah, I understand that. And we don't want to cause damage to My Wave. So
No.
what if we put guardrails on this and said that you guys were open to supporting an application in Crane School District, which is Harney County School District number 4?
I would be fine with that.
Is four the elementary or the high school?
4J is the high school, I believe. 1J is the elementary.
Okay, just so if it's the high school, then it covers lots of beyond Crane proper.
Right.
I feel like I want to say something, but
Go ahead.
I got passionate about this project, obviously working with you and going to all the conferences. I would just like caution that it is kind of like a political game. I know that the Harney County School District number 3 was important to Warm Springs because 1/3 of Warm Springs is Paiute, and that area has Paiute land in it. So that was like a draw for them, or like kind of a bells and whistles for them.
Yep.
Crane doesn't have that, so that incentive is removed. Not saying that they wouldn't be interested in the project, but the other part of it is that if they could do, like if we could help get that matching, which I know there's some conversations going on with some other entities about how to get over that matching fund, but if they could go for that School District 3 and be successful, we've got new developments going in. I don't really see. Everyone wants growth for Harney County, right? So why can't we just have more players at the table? And I doubt that My Wave is going to be interested in Crane in some of these other areas because of that population. But if Warm Springs is pre-qualified and they do a great job on this, who's to say that the OBO doesn't say, could you also do this other territory? Now you've got everybody with infrastructure that we need for the future in order to be successful. So that, I just had to put that in there. So thank you for
Appreciate
listening.
that.
I was incorrect. I had it backwards. School District 4 is the elementary. School District 1J is the high school. And there are tribal lands in Crane School District 1J. Yeah.
Cool.
So, are we going to take some action here? So,
It's not a commitment for them to do an application. And it's not a commitment for us to have matching funds or anything. Once they do an application and then see if it's approved, then there'd be further action to take.
well, I don't want them to spend a lot of their time moving forward, which is they're in the crazy 2 weeks of doing all the hard work. And if we say no now, then we've got to save them all the trouble. They're trying to help. They have a role with the USDA grant that they have to help communities like ours, and this is their professional best guess on how to do it. And I've been amazed they continue to creatively try to find a way.
And Commissioner Frank, there would be nothing required of Harney County outside of letters of support for an application. And even once the award is made, then it only has to do with the internet service provider itself asking during the permitting process. That is literally the only involvement that Harney County would be required to participate in. So
Doesn't get better than that. As far as not having to put any other skin in the game. All they can do is say no.
What was your motion again? Because Rachel put some guidelines on there.
Is the Harney County Court supportive of Rural Prosperity Partners moving forward with development of an application as discussed today?
And providing letters of support.
And with our role in providing letters of support as soon as possible and appropriate.
with the guardrails that Judge
With the
Court.
guard.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll second. A motion's been made and seconded to support Rural Prosperity's efforts and application for broadband funding. Is that right? And
For the BEAD application.
for BEAD application. And which would include the county providing letters of support for the application. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
very
you, guys.
much.
I
We'll let
know,
you know as soon as we have more information.
sounds good. Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Hard to scramble, guys, but they're scrambling on our behalf.
And-
And I appreciate your saying, well, here's what we need to think about. I do. But I'm glad that you all approved at least us trying.
I appreciate the work that you and Holly have done on this, trying to improve the situation of Harney County. I just feel like this program, I don't believe in it. I feel like it's a racket. I feel like if they really wanted to service Harney County.
I
Go about
agree.
it.
I was very disappointed. We were doing great, and then when the first grants came out and we had a good application for the technical assistance grant to get us even further, when we didn't get that, that was, I mean, I gotta tell you, I was very quietly upset at that, and my attitude kind of turned toward, well, I'll work on it, but not quite as hard as I was, because I think I see the writing on the wall with the state and how they look at, well, we'll just keep serving this community because they have more people no matter what. Now they're at this level and we're still down here because we have so few people that an internet service provider can't make money by investing in us down in our communities. So I'd pretty much quit thinking about it, to tell you the truth, until I know last week I was like,
Would there be issues with franchising inside the incorporated areas?
I don't know anything about that. We'd have to do some.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Provider franchising through the city? We can't charge franchise fees, but the cities can. And I'm not,
I don't.
Some of the fiber that goes through this is like Link, Oregon, and I feel like there's some ways to get around some of that. Might be worth discussing.
yeah.
Link Oregon is enabled to work with tribes and with certain public entities. But generally, they weren't able to be the lead applicant on something like this, which is who we were hoping to have be our lead applicant, because they're very, sound organization, et cetera. So there's just been a lot of conversations that Rachel and them have been having, and the blow by blow changes right now. So that's why it sounds pretty vague today. And again, it may turn out that we don't end up submitting an application, but definitely want to hear if the county court was at least supportive of the scramble to do something.
I'm in support of pursuing it to see what it could lead to versus just shooting it down right now. But I'm not sure I would be be ready to give my full and 100% support until I saw exactly what the proposal would be.
I'd like to hear, I'll give, My Wave a call and just say, hey, can you remind me what your project is? Cause I don't remember. It wasn't anything I was involved in. When they applied for the stuff and worked with us, they didn't get funded, which was unfortunate. But they were pretty much maxed out at that point anyway.
When I know from a personal source that they have a 2-year plan to finish broadband to Burns or fiber to Birds and Hines.
Do you know more than that?
That's all I know on it.
What is the administrative fee of Rural Prosperity Partners?
Their administrative fee, I don't know. That's how they were gonna get themselves paid for doing all the work.
Right.
And they would keep tabs on all the requirements that come in and sort of manage it. That's my understanding. Maybe that was the wrong term. Well, thank you. We'll see what happens. I appreciate it not being stopped at this juncture.
So we will move forward with letters of support and see where it leads. All right, moving along then, I'm gonna move around a little bit here in the agenda to our public health, rural health clinic, high country health and wellness center. Since Kelly is here, allow this part of it to take place and she can get back to work. So I received an email, and I thought, I mean, not to take anything away, but I thought it was some kind of a milestone or something in certification for it's got kind of a long title here. Patient-centered primary care home. And I thought it was a new certification that we received, and I guess it was a recertification. But I still asked Kelly to show up or to come in if she would, and just say, maybe talk a little bit about what this entails and the work that you guys are doing over there.
Yeah, it's a really great program that supports our patients they call it a AAA, which is, just surrounding them with as much care at primary level to prevent illness down the line, hospitalizations, and heart visits. We first became certified a level tier 3 in 2019. So now we are actually tier 4. We're working for the tier 5. That will be a little harder to do. We just don't have a lot of staff to support that and providers. So they would like you to have additional behavioral health integration, dental integration, extended hours outside the normal 9 to 5. Maybe Sunday we can get them, but those are some aspirations.
So just expanded service in different areas.
Would that out here in your mind, just thinking ahead, whether it's correct or not, be something contractually and conceptually to work out with Symmetry Care? Is that how it would work out?
It's really integrated. We did have a provider in 2019 and 2020 that did some behavioral health in the clinic. And it's also super hard to get paid for. Most of those are Medicaid patients, and they EOCCO contracts with only specific behavioral health in each case. So it was a struggle. We tried it, but and it was very beneficial. The other thought of the behavioral health piece is that they don't see very many patients. They have to come in weekly, so they've only got a caseload of less than 10, really, so it's hard to expand that further.
So could that be a just kind of brainstorm or whatever, but could that still be a contract type of thing where a person would have certain set hours at the clinic, but then they would have their own hours if they were private practice, have their own hours? So
yeah, I think that's definitely something we to look at. It's hard to get behavioral health in our area anyway, so it was kind of a stretch. We're like, we'll just do really well what we're already doing and look.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, regardless, congratulations on this recertification.
Yeah.
Pass that along to your staff over there, please.
I mean, it says it right in here, the extent to which your clinic has demonstrated excellence. So thank you for your excellence, you and your whole staff, and our community is better for it. And appreciate all the hard work.
Thank you for recognizing.
Anything else?
How many tiers are there?
Hi.
Okay, okay. You're doing great. So it's not like 12 or
No.
okay. Yeah, thank you very much.
All right,
Thank
kind of on the mental health topic, then we'll go back to the discussion on the cemetery care contract, biennial contract. I sent it out for review last week. There's a couple areas in it that I kind of flagged that had concern for me and passed along to commissioners. And I didn't know if you guys wanted to have any more further conversation here. We wanted to look at setting a work session.
You know, I went over it in great detail. I called our jail commander, had a nice conversation with him yesterday, answering my questions on a lot of things. And I don't have a lot, but I do think it would be beneficial to have a work session where we have Emily Johnson of Cemetery Care, our jail commander, us, and if there's anybody else you think needs to be there, because we get the other questions answered that may come up. And I will say that I'm pleased to say that quite a few of the quality services at the Harney County Correctional Facility are going much better than they were a year ago. So things are improving. There's still that gap in the training for the correctional staff stuff to talk about. But I think with Emily taking the reins and our jail commander and us, I think it would be a good conversation prior to signing. That's my thought.
I would agree. I would echo the same concerns. I think that making sure that we sit down and understand each other's needs and, expectations before just signing it and passing it along would be a good thing.
Yeah, it's a pretty good contract. I think we just want to make sure we understand everything and that we're good with it.
So it's obviously good through June. The contract, has to be re-executed by July 1st. So we have a month. I don't want to drag it on a month, but we will reach out to Cemetery Care then and everybody and see what dates are available for a work session.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Oh, did that be a special session for signing? Or
What's
just
that?
a work
No, we
session?
would just have a work session and then it would come back up before county court on a regular session for signing. Okay, next business is resolution. Resolution 2025-08 in the matter of appropriating funds due to the unexpected occurrence or condition in regard to Fair Fund 252. In a summary, as a result of unexpected revenues because of the fire camp this last year and the revenues they got from that, and then the unexpected needs for renovation of a bathroom that due to cold weather damage and freezing pipes caused some damage. So we need to increase revenue and increase materials and supplies to facilitate the expenditure of those funds. Would result in an increase of $100,000 in revenue to $853,991 and an increase of materials and supplies by the same amount, $100,000 to $516,605. Any discussion?
Glad we got it.
With that being said, then I make a motion to approve resolution 2025-08 in the matter of appropriating funds due to the unexpected occurrence for condition in regard to Fair Fund 252.
I second.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve resolution 2025-08 in the matter of appropriating funds due to unexpected occurrence or condition in regard to Fair Fund 252 as described. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And hearing none, motion carries. All right, that takes us to the end of new business. And I did have some correspondence, but that was for the fire controlled burns that I spoke with Josh about. Any other correspondence?
None from me.
We got some correspondence from, I believe it was the BLM about a public comment period for an Air Force installation, basically, on the south end. Did you guys not all get that? Because I didn't bring it, because I was gonna bring it up, and I just assumed that you would have.
We had it the last meeting.
We might have had it at the
It might
last
have been
meeting.
on the
Did we?
last, on Town Cloud, it might still be
However,
available.
it has come to my attention that I think that does need to be on our radar because it will adversely affect some of the Harney County citizens. And so I have it on my calendar to attend that, and I don't know how much of a difference we can make on that, but it would, from the sounds of things, their proposal would basically remove 49,000 acres from the largest allotment in Oregon, which there are two separate ranches on the south end that share that allotment. And there is a concern over taking of property rights.
What's the purpose of the facility
Oh,
or the
man.
site? Is it
Some sort of Air Force deal.
radar or exercises? I mean,
I
like a
wish
training site or?
I wish I'd have brought
I don't
that.
recall
just-
reading it. I'll have to find
I
it.
don't see it.
Might be on the dash. I just assumed that everybody got that same letter.
Oh, yeah, I think I did get it, and I don't think I have it handy.
Well, is there a public hearing date on it?
Here we go. This is the public hearing date.
I don't think I got that. That doesn't look familiar to me at
I
all.
did get one, but.
This is from the Department of the Air Force. They're having public meetings about an EIS to put in two systems that will have a transmitter and a receiver. They are having a public comment period in Christmas Valley, Four Rivers Cultural Center in Ontario, one in McDermott, and one here in Burns. And the one in Burns is on May 14th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the chamber.
From 5 to what?
5 to 7 p.m. Homeland Defense Over the Horizon radar.
And does it show on the map there in Hardy County?
Right. Sorry, it's all.
That's on the
Yeah.
road going to the White Horse Road.
But this allotment goes into Harney County as well. I was told it was the biggest allotment in Oregon. And White Horse Ranch and the Stoddard Ranch both are owners of that permit.
I think that would be important for us to.
It's just east of
Question.
Coyote Lake. It's a dry lake bed out there.
I guess.
Yep. It's a little southeast of Coyote Lake, but in that area.
So have you had any conversations yet with any of the people that live down there?
Yes.
And what is their initial reaction or comment to you?
Their concern is that and it doesn't say it in this letter, but there is discussion because such a large chunk of the allotment is going to be segregated for this Air Force installation, that there is going to be a cancellation of AUMs without compensation. And that's a concern to them.
That is a concern. Well, let's see. I'm gonna try to go to that night, but more to listen. And I'm glad you're raising that.
Yeah, I could see. I don't know. I'd like to know full scope of what it is. But
Holly, do you
I could
want
see.
this to put in the record?
I sure
Sorry, it's
do.
all put away.
Next
Is
Wednesday.
that something that, we should contact, our county council about, or just,
I would pass it along to him. Just
as it relates to grazing and property rights and various things like that?
Yeah, we
What are
could.
the issues? Maybe just thought when she scans it. And they say, oh, this is,
I mean, I'd like to know the full scope of what it is. Is there gonna have people stationed out there? Is there gonna be economic benefit to south end of the county? Is it just an unmanned site that's gonna,
how many acres are we talking?
It doesn't say in that letter, at least I didn't see in that letter, and it wasn't until one of the landowners told me yesterday, 49,000 acres
Would be
taken
removed.
out,
remove from grazing?
which is significant. He said, I realize that's not that much, but I was like, that's a lot, man. It's a square mile.
How many more good pieces of news are we gonna get? Sorry. Don't open the mail anymore.
Anyway, that was what I had for correspondence.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Did that letter, does it specifically reference an allotment by name?
I don't believe it does.
I get with. Give the BLM a call and find out what allotment that is and. And then I just for. Situational awareness, whatever, be able to. Put an eye on it. I'd like to have shape files and our GIS specialist plot it and everything to see where it's at, what it affects, all of that. It definitely could have some concerning points to it, but what's the flip side of the coin?
Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's lots of sides to a coin, but it sounded like the landowners that are affected can make the changes to their operation. Their concern is taking of property rights without compensation. Was their biggest concern. They can make it work and work around that. It'll change the ecosystem and change how things water. But their concern is the taking of those property rights.
Rights as far as their grazing permit rights?
There should be compensation. Without me knowing any more than I do today, there should be some compensation when that happens.
Everybody, the grazing rights are have value to them,
They do.
so.
Also, before we get into the general deliberation, just because we're talking about that south end, I think it's worth noting, we had conversations before about, I'm not sure the exact name, but what's going on in Malheur with the Owyhee and whether it be a monument or not. And I was a little skeptical when our federal partners said this is supported by the ranchers. And I thought, well, I don't know about that. And they said they absolutely do support it because it will lock in their current uses. You won't be able to put in new infrastructure, but you can maintain the existing. And they wish it would actually expand further over to the Harney County, past the Harney County line, because it would lock in the conservation of that area. And so I was surprised by that. And I ignored it because I thought there's no way they support that.
Wow.
Do they ever do
I can't
prescribed
speak.
burns on those areas?
Do they ever do one?
Prescribed burns.
No.
No, it's rangeland.
And if it goes into that, what exactly is it called? Because it's not a monument. That's the whole thing.
Wilderness
They'll
area.
make it a wilderness.
I can't speak for those individuals and whatnot, but I know I wouldn't support it. I just have to plain bluntly say I would not support it. I don't support wilderness area designation. We have enough closed off area of our public lands to the public as it is, and I'm not going to support a wilderness area proposal.
I was against that, a wilderness area. expansion. And to hear some ranchers say that is interesting. I'd have to think more about all the population, to include those ranchers, but to include public interest and include private property and all.
I mean, in a lot of aspects, that creates a single use area where it's wilderness, yeah, and you can still go into it, but it's either on foot or on horseback. I've explored a lot of that country, a lot of that territory, and there will be area and territory that I would no longer be able to get into.
I believe that the landowners they're picking the lesser of two evils and they want assurances. But to me, that is not keeping with the theme of multiple land use planning. So I agree with what you're saying.
And they're everything that they're doing could be done under current laws, regulations, FLPMA, as far as securing grazing rights and preventing development, everything could all be done under current and not close it off to the public. This is not the only way to achieve the goals that they're asking for. They talk about mining. You can remove, it takes some doing, but you can remove mining rights or for people to go file a claim or whatever. It doesn't just have to be done by a wilderness area. The Wilderness Act also provides for the fact that any pre-existing rights are still recognized. Just because a wilderness area comes in, anybody has pre-existing rights, those rights are not canceled.
I'm just more suspect about any rules that you assume will remain, and that so many things have been undone over the years that it's all the rights or kicker tax or any other such thing that just don't do it when they feel like want to do it.
And when you talk about conservation for the area, right now, if you go to which will still be open, but your places like Leslie Gulch and Birch Creek, which will still be open because they have facilities there that they'll still have to have open and the public will still have access to, but they can't manage those facilities right now as it is. Leslie Gulch becomes a garbage pit during this May Memorial Day weekend. There's no garbage service there, which I don't expect them to do because, you haul it in, you haul it out. But I've been down there on weekends where it's a high use weekend and there's garbage all over the place. Bathrooms that aren't serviced and maintained because they have pit toilet, nice brick building pit toilets there, but it's not maintained. I have to say that in all my wandering around in that area, I've never seen the law enforcement ranger out there. If you're going to turn it into a wilderness area, it really just creates more management for enforcement. And they don't have it now. And it's not going to come with money to increase it.
You say I've seen more management for enforcement in that you have to presume that someone needs to be out there making sure people aren't trespassing, etc.
Yeah. Because it'll close off 98% of that designated area to motorized travel. But there's lots of 2-track roads out there that are still going to be there. You're just creating a situation where you're inviting people to go violate the law. And I've been in areas in Nevada where wilderness areas were designated and national monuments, and no money ever came along with them for increased management.
I don't mean to take us down a rabbit trail, but
No, I'm sorry, but I'm kind of passionate about not, in the area that I worked in the BLM in Nevada had 22 wilderness areas in it, in the one district. It had more wilderness area than, well, you get to big places like up in Alaska or whatever, but 22 separate wilderness areas in one district alone. And I don't remember all the acreage or square miles or whatever of it, but and I'm not saying either that some areas don't deserve to be protected because of their natural characteristics and everything. But again, those are public lands. Those are lands that belong to everybody, not just the permittee.
Well, as you said, that's not the only way to protect it from things like mining, but it's the easiest way, and that seems to be the
Yes.
battle we fight with state and federal agencies all the time, is the blanket easiest way.
Yeah.
It's not what's in the best interest for our citizens.
Sorry for my passion on that, but that is one that any other correspondence? Meeting schedules. So unless any other conflicts, we should be back on our first and third Wednesday of the month schedule after this meeting, which would be May 21st and June 4th and 18th will be the next meetings. Other meetings of note?
The Rangeland Fire Protection Association Summit starts tomorrow. It's tomorrow and Thursday. And I believe Commissioner Frank is going to be attending this summit.
I will, and we had talked about that, but I don't get the, I searched this morning and I couldn't find any information when they changed the dates. So maybe if you could send me, so I know the start times
Yeah,
and stuff, and I will
send you
attend.
the agenda. Good, because I'm out of pocket tomorrow.
There's a big meeting on May 13th, week from today in LeGrand.
I will not be zooming in. Will you?
Yeah, I'm gonna drive over there.
Oh, okay, good. So, on May 15th at 4:00 in Crane in the multipurpose room, there's going to be a meeting to help explain the irrigation and water use curtailments and actions that the Division 512 Rules Advisory Committee meetings will have led to. And I believe Rep. Owens is going to be the one leading that meeting, and that'll be on following, I think the Division 512 meeting wraps up at 3:00 that day in town. And then they're trying to reach out and really get, I believe he's trying to reach out and make sure people understand what's happening, what the impacts could be or will be, and prepare people for whatever's happening. And so I know I posted that on my Facebook pages, and I took it from wherever I found it, but that's going to be an important meeting for the community who wants to know. A lot more people will be impacted than those that farm.
And having it at Crane
On
kind of-
Thursday, when school's out.
but focuses it more on an agricultural community than it does our commercial, community here in Burns, because it's going to affect everybody.
It is.
We are, the NRAC and some other groups in the HDP, I think will be involved, are gonna plan more meetings similar to this one once the public comment period opens for that rule language, so that we can engage more of the community, and we'll probably have them in different places so that we can engage different demographics. That's the plan.
So the RAC itself, Division 512 RAC, there's May 14th and 15th, there's some meetings here in Burns. For anyone who wants to attend. Is the community-based water planning still holding meetings?
Yes,
Doing stuff?
they are. They have reached consensus on their integrated water plan that encompasses surface water and groundwater. They are starting to put together an implementation plan of how we'll actually do that, and we're trying to figure out how to put together an implementation committee. The steering committee for that group has had some conversations about how we want to invite people to be a part of that. And I was not aware until one of the OWRD people told me, because we are one of the two conveners, it's us and Harney Watershed Council convened that community-based water planning. When it goes before the Water Commission, I think maybe in September, to be approved, the two conveners will have to go vouch for it. And so that gives us a little bit of leverage to make sure that it works for our community, if that makes sense. And I also asked the question during the public comment period, which is currently in the public comment period, and they haven't done a good job. We haven't done a good job of advertising that. But I asked, what comments do we have to take? And they said it's up to the conveners. And I said, we're not taking comments from outside the area because it's community-based water planning. And there was a pretty rigorous discussion with the steering committee about how we can make sure that all of the viewpoints and different interests of Harney County are represented, but we're not being driven by outside interests. So that's positive.
That
Yeah.
is positive.
Yep.
I was thinking the other day that it was 10 years ago that OWRD first went ahead and put the moratorium on new permits. It's been 10 years. That happened the following year, the community-based water planning began. So it's been 9 years. 9 years.
I heard and was trying to navigate their website for hours this weekend to substantiate, but from someone who should know, said that a third of the water that we use right now has been allocated and permitted since that first meeting.
Because it was already in the pipeline. I mean, at that time, my understanding is that the moratorium was on any new applications. That there were things in the works.
Pre-existing and-
You know, all that, and that took years, because my first few years here on the court, we would look at it, even though we didn't have anything to do with the state's decisions on whether to approve, decline, or whatever, extend those applications, but we kind of reviewed them all the time, and you could see the quantity just going down, we still had them for a number of years. And then we decided to take it off the standing agenda, that they're publicly available and it's not anything we take action on anyway, so.
So how does what is it, House Bill 3800? Is that right? How does that affect this?
There is a chance that 3800 that they won't continue to push 3800 if some of the outcomes that 3800 was hoping to get, the department, Oregon Water Resource Department, will make some of those changes in their rule language.
Because OWRD is not in favor of 3800, are they?
I think OWRD has been involved in conversations to implement some of the stuff that 3800 is asking for. And part of the concern was that there's a misunderstanding, like Commissioner Doro talked about, in informing people. People don't understand what this means for our county. And there was misunderstanding about 3800. And it is Oregon Water Resource Department that will curtail any water use. It's not our legislators or the county. And that needs to be clear. So
Yeah, the authority rests with OWRD.
I am optimistic, and the RAC members who have been involved for 9 or 10 years, some of them are super sharp and they are really starting to hit their stride and ask some really poignant questions and not let the department sidestep around them. And so I'm really optimistic that we can make things better. One of the things I told OWRD, we are not supportive of them including the southern region. When they did their water study, they broke the basin into 3 different regions. The southern region showed a surplus for groundwater recharge. And I said, based on that, I don't think we can support you doing a 39% curtailment in the lower Blitzen sub area. And so we're having some back and forth about that right now.
I would agree with your comment that the RAC members are starting to hit their stride. I remember I was getting a little concerned last year that they didn't seem to speak up much, and now they are, and their comments are excellent, and the points they bring to the table are things that weren't addressed and need to be addressed, explained, or rationalized. So good on them.
There's an NRAC meeting tonight is the only thing I have on my calendar that you guys haven't already discussed at 6. And that RAC meeting, if people want to tune in or attend, I think it's going to be the morning of the 14th from maybe 9 to 1. It's either 8 to 1 or 9 to 1.
Is that the big meeting?
8 to 1.
For the RAC? It's
8 to
8 to 1 on the 14th, the 512 RAC. And then on the 15th, it's all day.
It's 8 to 3. And then people can boogie over to the Crane if they want to hear that one too.
Right.
Lot going on there, lot coming to a head here. I have a lot of those AOC steering committee type meetings and legislative meetings on this Friday, the 9th and Monday, the 12th. So that's, I think it's important.
Did they have a reason for breaking those up over Fridays and Mondays like that? So it used to be on.
I know, I don't like that, but I think it on the bad part is now anyone who's going to really be involved in those has 2 different days. They've got to carve out time, but I think that they covered things better in more depth. But I'm not sure. I don't remember now why they did that. I just have little kind of meetings. I'll be going to some of the stuff that's already been discussed. I do have not June 1st through June 1 to 3, June 1st, 2nd, 3rd. I'll be attending the AOC Board of Directors Board Retreat in Sisters. And so anything you have, and you don't have to be on the board to go, but it might have already closed to register. I don't know. But if there's anything that you want talked about, addressed, or inquired about on how AOC works from a board of directors perspective, please let me know and I'll be most happy to raise that. Yeah, I don't have anything big to raise on scheduling.
General deliberation. We done with calendar events? General deliberation. I am finalizing, working on budget, trying to proof some of that stuff. As we mentioned, I did a pretty much a scrutiny, on PERS and the FICA calculations. Most of it, I can't figure out why. Most of it is right on. There's a couple of departments that it's off on. And I can't understand what the difference is and why the totals are coming out different in a couple of departments versus all of them. So still working on that. As I kind of mentioned during the budget committee, though, any changes that are made now will go under the adopted budget column. So you'll be able to see a progression from proposed to approved to adopted. And plus I'll highlight those and we'll talk about any changes that were made during our budget hearing in June. I don't have that scheduled yet. Probably looking at like the 3rd week in June for our budget hearing. Or I don't like to push it, or I don't want to push it right up until the very end, but at the same time, I don't want to leave too much room afterwards that we find things and then could have changed it in the last week or something. So probably maybe around the 25th of June, which is the last week of June for a budget hearing. Post flooding recovery work, the long-term recovery group is being formed. Right now, we had a meeting yesterday. Tentatively, it looks like it might fall under, because a couple of the recommendations we had was that for it to just fold in underneath a pre-existing nonprofit, so you don't have to create a nonprofit. It's looking like about 9 to 11 people on that board for that committee, for that long-term recovery group. And after that's done, any MOU or bylaws, I'm going to get in touch with county council and find out about structure and creation of, and what kind of documentation is needed for that. And then basically all that structure and creation deals with receiving monies, applying for grants, applying for or receiving any aid or assistance in dollars from the state, and then having to manage it and account for it and whatnot. So that's why it's got to be an organized structure to do that.
Is that an entity that tends to be temporary, that it might exist for a couple of years and then it is closed?
Well, they're kind of talking about making it a permanent group that also, because they, in the title, they wanted to add long-term recovery and housing group that would deal with housing needs and development, or not, maybe not on a commercial scale development, but alternative housing type of needs, whether that's apartments or whatever.
And how might that relate to community and action stuff?
It should work in conjunction with, and that's right now, like I said, tentatively, the hub is looking at taking on this role as the lead entity, as a nonprofit, that it would fold in underneath the hub. So the hub already works with community in action. The hub already works with the housing authority. They already work with all those entities. So it just kind of made sense that that's where it would go to.
Of those 9 seats or so, does the county have a seat, and are you it?
No, I'm not going to. It's represented, the county's represented by emergency management and by the health department.
Okay.
I didn't see a need for me. I told them, I said, I'm here to help. I want to attend. I want to know what's going on. However, the county court can support it, but I didn't want to take up a seat with
Sounds good.
myself, that we have other representation on it.
Good.
So that's going. The Lincoln Building, you may have noticed there's some activity over there. The Oregon DEQ, our contractor, is beginning the abatement work over there for asbestos contamination. And the heating tank, there's a great big heating tank in there that's basically bricked in. Once they get it all figured out, they're gonna have to cut it up into pieces to get it out without causing major demolition to the structure around it. So that's underway. We had OSHA and CIS come in. OSHA came in and did a consult on safety walkthrough. CIS is going to come in and do a couple other facilities. Facility manager and Holly have been coordinating that. Help get us on track for our safety program. And I'm going to be on vacation the 22nd through the 27th. Out of the area.
Oh, that means major things are gonna happen.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
It's too early for a fire and too late for a flood.
Yeah,
Um,
that's all I have.
Rob, if you don't mind, I'll just spew mine. Just to check in, has that Meadowlands report been completed? I'd like to get back.
Yes, it has. I'll get it to you guys. The draft was completed and I think it's pretty much finalized, but I'll get it to you.
You may have noticed on-site septic that Jesse Barnes sent an email right before court started. It's a very good update. Sounds all like everyone's right on track. I had sent you an email, so you all were apprised, but I was very pleased that I was able to help facilitate that Druzy Road hazard of that CenturyLink cable that had been temporarily across the road and was becoming a problem since March 12th. And emergency manager had a good phone number. You always got to find that good phone number to get something done. And, I called the guy on a Monday and by Thursday it was corrected, and they're very grateful out there. So that's why I copied you guys, just so you're aware of it.
That's one.
Yeah, I love it when I connect with something positive. When Commissioner Frank speaks, if he can just kind of tell us how the Fair Event Center, if there's anything update. And then I guess we need to put on our agenda, whether or not we're going to make any changes to our audit format approach, whether go stick with cash basis, go to a modified cash basis or whatever. There's, that one citizen has raised their comments and concerns to us. She's worked with asking our treasurer comments. I met with her and the treasurer once. It's just a matter of, if we're going to change anything, whether it's just to add some footnotes, whether it's to change to modified cash, or, she wants to move to accrual, but it's my understanding that modified cash basis which includes some additional detail. Our current auditor would do it at no increased cost, and the treasurer said it's doable. If there's certain footnotes to be done, fine. If you all want to go in a whole nother direction, that's fine, but in order for anything to be finalized, they need to know by the end of June, the auditors. So we should probably go ahead and put that on our agenda. And I don't know how you would like to have that roll, if you want anyone to speak, or if the treasurer to present, or how.
I don't have any issues with it myself. It's an addition of some additional data that, you know, it's available regardless. It's just not in that report already.
Right.
So I don't have a problem with,
We're totally in compliance with everything.
yeah.
It's just that this is a person who has probably a little bit more detailed interest than some who says, hey, you know, where's this information? County ought to have that presented in your audit.
So I don't have a problem with adding it. It's available elsewhere already, but as a matter of just adding it to it, I'm fine
I'll
with.
tell you, I'm gonna lean heavily on the treasurer's recommendation.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I feel like, first of all, it's not a problem. We're doing everything okay. There's a recommendation by someone who took time to look into it, dig into it, met with us, and we ought to just make a decision whether to make any changes or not. Do you want it just
I
to
agree.
be a agenda item? Would you ask the treasurer to present it to us for decision?
Yeah,
Would that be all
that'd be
right?
the cleanest way of doing it, probably to have that right in front of us and make a decision.
I'm not partial either which way, just to let you know. You know, whatever's best. I appreciate your views when the time comes for decision. That's all I had. Thank you.
The last county college was real heavy on mental health authority. And one of the things I wrote down was one of the questions that came up when we had that presentation from Symmetry Care was there was questions about whether or not they solicit out of county people. And it was recommended that that's something that we could ask county council about if we can specifically say in our contract that we don't.
That's good,
Condone
because
that.
there was one line in the Symmetry Care contract and then probably in that. Oh, exhibit 1 was not, is that the big thing? It wasn't there for me to look at, but if we have a work session, we'll need to.
Well, and that
have
might
that
be,
available.
that might be the subcontract. And I asked them about the subcontract and they said that we don't need that anymore, so I might need to take that out.
Okay, it's good to know, because I saw it referred to exhibit 1. I'm like, I don't have exhibit.
I think I'll look back through it again, but I think that might have been what it was in regards to.
Cool for asking that, yeah.
Yeah. And some of that may be cleared up when we have a work session with them, which I think is a good idea. Oregon State Extension Service, it says that they have a document sitting on the provost's desk virtually. And they should have a DocuSign for us to sign an agreement for them to facilitate strategic planning for us at no cost to us. And what I kind of envision for that is that it would take the shape of whatever the departments want it to be, but as a department ourselves, as a county court, probably wouldn't be a bad idea for us to think about what are some of our goals we want to achieve. And I don't know what kind of timelines the facilitator will lay out, if we're going to be talking 5-year timelines or what, but I'm sure everybody has ideas about how as a county court, where we'd like to see it go. So we're making progress on that. It's just real slow. And if I'm being real honest, I think once we get them here and have that first initial meeting, if our executive poncho is game for it, I think she would be a good point person for them, because if departments are going to be compiling goals and missions or whatever and working with them, and you kind of understand that stuff, but it's not my place to pile more on your plate. But
I think it is. I think you can.
but you also have kind of expressed some interest and passion for it, so
Absolutely. I'd be happy to help.
that was kind of the plan there.
So, and maybe we do this at the very beginning of the planning stage when we first sit down. But the scope of this planning effort, whether it's internal, external, or both, or what, is it about our strategic planning for where we want to see the county go to, or is it just our internal government? What, on that note of external, at the long-term recovery group meeting yesterday, I was asked about what is the county's vision for housing? And which kind of morphed from the Silvies River and the flooding and how that affected both county residents or properties and city properties. And I explained that, part of our planning or mitigation process there is to look for long-term solutions to the flooding so that it doesn't happen again, or it's minimized to where the effects are minimal, whatever. So I wasn't quite sure exactly what the request was as far as what our vision is. So I'm not sure if that entails a full-blown strategic plan, county like our existing county strategic plan, the zoning plan, comprehensive plan. If that entails that or what that would be. So I'm not sure what elements we actually want to put into the strategic planning. That might already be covered in that. I need to talk more with this individual and find out exactly what they were referring to, because it could be in our comprehensive plan already. Or if we're just going to kind of focus on internal government and where we want to take the county in that direction. I don't, I think that'll be the good thing for the very first
There's
meeting.
at least a financial piece somewhere.
Yes.
That's my main concern of immediate concern. And then on housing, more to come, obviously. We always looked at, when we did have the last housing study done, at the population projections, and where ours was very stagnant. But we still took an optimistic view to say, in spite of Harney County's challenges, it's a beautiful place to live away from the hubbub of suburban and urban chaos, and people who can afford to come here to telecommute with their jobs, or retired, or can't find a way to support themselves here. They like it when they come here. There's just not enough housing for that housing market to have that enough inventory, not too much. You don't want too much, but enough housing inventory for upward and downward mobility in the types of home you live in. You start out with a little modest home, then you get married and you have a couple of kids, then you hit your stride. Now you're getting older, you want to downsize, etc. Most people, wherever they live, that's where they stay in Harney County, because there's not options available that are reasonable. And it just makes for better quality of life when you have that that inventory variety.
But I'm looking forward to this process.
Yeah.
I really am.
I kind of envision this one being for internally as an organization, and then that may lead to something in the future. But I think if we do a full-blown external Harney County as a county, that one's going to be long and drawn out. And it'll be like when we did the Chapter 5 planning, and people are coming and talking about starting nights are important. It might be a good thing to do, but first I think we need to get
It would seriously broaden it. If we're going to do external, it will seriously broaden it. And any type of plan, you need to have feedback from those that are affects, which is your public. So, I mean, I think maybe this one should be internal.
Focused internal. And once we have a better roadmap for that, then,
I kind of almost envision it being broken down by department, and we'll see when the group comes together. Department heads, they can take it the direction they want to, but one department might be really heavily focused on financial goals for the next 5 years, and another department might be about staffing and morale. It depends on what people need. So,
and I hope we can have conversations that lay out everything, even stuff people don't want to think about, for instance. Just so that it's said, it's not that it's never mentioned, but, all right, for instance, our jail, with a jail that's up to speed, and that hopefully will reduce the need for as much staff as we have, that would be a good plan. If we can't do that, if things ever went sideways, we might have to utilize Grant County Jail. People don't want to hear that, but it still needs to be stated, still needs to be said as we look at our plan. Hopefully it's going to go this direction, but what if it goes this direction? What's your plan be thinking?
Thank you for coordinating that, though.
Yeah, thank you.
when it's done, then we can see how it turned out. On to fair capital, kind of capital improvement updates like we talked about we want to do. We need to give a shout out to Eric Trishella. They said last night at the fair board meeting, he has hauled in a pile of gravel, all the gravel they need, and he brought it from far away to get the right kind of clean gravel. And so thank you to Eric for doing that. They can't even read that. On the Fair Event Center, they have pumped all the water out. They have everything dug up, and their goal is to have the footings poured by the end of this month. They've inventoried the entire building, and so they know that they have all the pieces, that they were all shipped, and they are still on track to complete phase 1 by fair is their plan.
Did you have an assistant last night?
Well, I had to do it on my phone because I didn't have my iPad and my finger was too fat. Another issue that came up, there are some citizens that are kind of concerned about the airport, and the airport is owned by the city of Burns. But one of the examples they gave is in the past, they believed that the county helped do some weed spraying out there. It was an in-kind donation, and they've had trouble getting those runways sprayed. And they gave a lot of examples of the business that it brings into the county that people don't realize, from the rich retired guys that come out to shoot ground squirrels to the cattle brokers that fly in. And so it really does provide a service to the county. And so I just wanted to bring that up. And I didn't know if that's something our weed department could do, was within their budget, was willing to do. And so I told them I'd ask, because there are some people that are concerned about the airport as it runs on a shoestring budget. It's not really profitable, but it does provide a pretty big service to the county. And I didn't realize it's big enough that if I hate when people talk about Cascadia. If it falls into the ocean, it's gone. But in that event, we could have large planes land here, jets and such. When Merkley came, that guy, but his girl Jessica, who is great to work with, said on the south end paving debacle, we have a grant to pave part of it, but it might not be the part we want. Really, we just need to pave it all. And she said, if you can give me some information. So I kind of just put her in contact with Eric Trishella, and they've been going back and forth and CCing me, but she is working on, he gave her maps and said, this is the part that we need to pave. This is what needs to be done. She has a meeting with BLM, and she's coming to the RFPA summit tomorrow and is going to talk to them to see if the BLM can maybe help pony some of the funding, because it's accessing BLM. So we'll see what comes of that. And we talked about the Air Force stuff. So I guess that's all I had.
I had,
Who's writing this?
That's my fat finger on the phone.
It is, okay.
I thought maybe you had put your kid to work.
I know, I was like, does he do that on purpose so no one can see what he wrote?
I missed a correspondence that I wanted to note, in post, flooding event and whatnot. Received a letter from Chuck and Carol Lynn to the Harney County Court. Chuck and I would like to thank you for all your hard work in getting the ditch levee built. So hopefully down the road, we'll never have to flood the one we just had. Have a flood like the one we just had. We know it stretched your resources to the limit, but in years to come, it will save a lot of property from being damaged or destroyed. Chuck and Carol. And they were the first affected because their property is right on the other side of it. Just wanted to share that. They sent it to us, and
That's good. When I got my hair done, I found out that for what you hear when you talk to your hairdresser, that what they hear, that people think county didn't even kick in anything.
they think that the county did.
Yeah, I said, that's incorrect. I just corrected her. I said, I can't control the rumor mill and I won't even try, but when you tell me something, I tell you correctly so you can, if you have more people conversing with you, I wish you mentioned.
Well, and for the record, then I could say that we've spent about $101,000 in that project and assisting Burns in some other bills that we had for those funds that we had pulled and set aside for that purpose.
Gravel?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the rock, was $86,000 on the dike construction work and just for it. But then some pumping and whatnot, equipment that they had rented to pump the water out. They sent me a bill asking if we could assist with paying that. We've got it set aside, so I told them yes.
And you took it from contingency?
Well, that $263,000 that we moved from the transfer line and the contingency line into a materials and supplies line, so we could use it for those purposes out of that fund or out of that pool of money.
Well, it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Good job.
I wanted to, and we can talk about this more. I kind of a go back here, but in the formation of this long-term recovery group and they'll be looking for funds. Initially getting it set up, there's going to be some cost in legal maybe and whatnot. And maybe having our county council fulfill those needs, there'll be additional cost outside of our contract. So I wanted to, nothing we have to decide on right now, but basically, I still have that same pool of cash that we could dip into to pay for those services. But I wanted to pitch that to you all. Think about it. We can discuss it more next meeting.
So if that entity receives funding, if whoever is sitting on that board, or if they can be very transparent on the funds that come in and the funds that go out, so it doesn't become someone's pot of cash for stuff that's different than.
And we have discussed that, and this board is supposed to do that purpose and serve that role in transparency of decision-making, of what criteria those funds will be used for, and, the decision on who gets it, who doesn't.
I'd like to, if you have any more conversations related to that, I'd like to see more openness to where they hold their meetings for that, so that bystanders can sit and listen. I know that sometimes some of their board meetings are not easy to find out when they are and go to, so that would be great.
Okay, I'll let them know. I think I'm done.
How do we feel about taking late public comment?
Did you have public comment, sir?
I came here to speak,
Okay.
and I've been patient.
Yeah, but for the record, public comment is at the beginning. But
I'm sorry?
public comment is at the beginning, for the record. We're at the beginning of county court is when we do public comment.
I didn't know that.
So, and for this time and in future times, it's at the beginning. We do public comment at the very beginning, but as recommended, we'll entertain any comments you have.
My question is, what is the budget? And where is the budget gonna be appropriated to?
So that's kind of a very broad, generalized question. What is the budget it's very dynamic. There's lots of different departments and functions and purposes and whatnot for the budget. There's a copy of it in the clerk's office.
Okay.
There's a copy of it online. There's a digital copy on the website.
She gave me the thing, but I went to it. And it has so much, I didn't know which one to go to.
So general fund is what most of the county's general operations are funded in the general fund. There's multiple funds within our budget. So the general fund covers things like the DA's office, the county court, the clerk's office, the treasurer's office, the assessor's office, juvenile department, the sheriff's office, and a couple others.
For the flood victims, or they're still flooded?
Yeah, we don't have any funds set aside for that. No, it's not a
Top priority?
Well, no, I'm not going to say it's not a top priority. It's just not something that we would fund.
We would budget for it under contingency.
I'm
We have
sorry?
a contingency fund.
Can I come a little closer?
We have a contingency fund.
I don't have anything.
We
All I
have a contingency fund.
Okay.
That's for unexpected things that come up. That would probably be where that has, we've kind of zeroed that out because of the flood, okay? We spend most of our money from that because the flood came up. We don't have a standing flood recovery fund or anything like that. That's what this group that we were talking about is gonna look into. We don't have a lot of revenue, so we're tight.
I saw that on the,
And, when you look at the budget, it's a lot of pages. It's a lot of detail. It's a very detailed budget. And so you might want to visit the clerk's office. They have it in a binder. You can at least see how thick it is, kind of get familiar with where they are. So if you use it online, you'll be more familiar with how to navigate it.
because I suffered probably, and I'm just estimating, maybe about $20,000 in damage.
We don't
Yeah,
have,
we can't cover everybody's loss. That's impossible, unfortunately. You know, whether you have insurance or not, whether there's some public funds that have something, but we don't.
Company will not try to cover
Right,
everything.
the county level, we don't have funds to address people's personal situations.
So in other words, I'm just trying to draw a picture here. Everybody's in a boat. There's a person out there, no life raft in the ocean. You guys are driving by and waving.
We help where we can. We certainly do.
A lot of the recovery funding
I'm sorry?
a lot of the recovery funding that they worked on from the state and from FEMA, which doesn't look like we'll get the FEMA designation, would be to help people that suffered losses. But in terms of the county budget, there's the general fund and the other stuff. As Judge Hart said, the general fund's $8 million. Only $3 million of that comes from property taxes. That's all the property taxes that we get. So we don't have a slush fund of money to pay out.
From what I saw on the internet, you guys don't have nothing because what they're telling. And I'm just being honest. And I'm just looking at it and I'm saying to myself, Burns is a beautiful place. And it's too bad that people gotta go down the drain. Because nobody can do nothing.
We have low.
And that's sad.
We have low population. You know, when the mill closed back in the 80s, you know, nothing has taken its place. So employment has been a challenge. The agricultural community in the unincorporated areas is a key driver. And now that's hitting challenges with curtailment of groundwater, which pumps the water to grow the hay, et cetera. We have a lot of challenges coming all at us and all relate to state and federal things that are external to our county decisions. We try to fight them and work with them and mitigate them. But yeah, I think our low population is always one of the ways we end up with little.
It definitely hurts.
Yeah.
And it's just sad to see because I'm in a boat that's got like 30 holes and there's no way for me to plug them. And there's sharks all the way around. And I just feel like I'm being left out.
Did you apply for any of the programs? And I don't know if that deadline already passed, but Red Cross had a program. They were
I
advertising
went
on the
to
radio.
Red Cross and they said, well, you're a veteran and you can apply for this. When I called the veterans, they're saying, if you're handicapped or disabled, we can build you a ramp. But I'm beyond that. I'm way beyond that. I mean, the jacks are holding up my place, are tilting to the side. Some of them are not on, and it's just a matter of time. This is the second flood I lived through. And the first one I thought was bad. This one here was enormous. And I said, wow, there's nothing I can do. All I'm doing is I'm being stuck with more money. If I want to repair it, it's up to me. And I'm looking at just to repair it, maybe 60 to 70,000. Because I would have to build a berm, build a little cement wall 3 foot high to surround the place. And I'm saying to myself, I ain't got that type of money. And I ain't getting no help. Only help I'm getting is your problem, you solve it. And that's cold. That is really cold. But if I have to live with it, what I'll do is I'll fix it up, dump the place and get out of here because there's nothing here for me. And that's where a lot of people that I saw on the internet saying that there's nothing here. There's no help. There's no nothing.
And that's kind of goes back to Commissioner Doro's put is our resources are limited. We have very limited resources ourselves.
I do understand that.
Yeah,
from
but
what I heard.
But the long-term recovery group that we're forming is hopefully going to be able to try and tap into some grants, through non-governmental agencies, organizations, maybe some state funding that'll help people rebuild. But it's not going to be anything overnight either, because it'll take a while.
I definitely knew that.
Yeah.
For me to keep on coming here, it's like, I gotta give you guys time to figure it out. But yet I'm still stuck in a hard place to where there's no help. And I don't know what to do. And I don't want to leave Burns. I'm telling you, I really love the place. But what I don't like about it is there's no funds. There's nothing here to help people. And that should be top priority because you're looking for people to come. You're talking about building housing. Are you going to build it right next to my place where it can get flooded? I don't think so.
No.
No. See, I mean, we all got, I don't even know how to put it anymore. I'm just so sad.
Really, when you boil it all down, we're all in the same boat.
The people up here in the mountains, they're not in the same boat as I am.
Well, as a community and as our resources, as it's related to our resources, we're in the same boat. If we have a flood, that affects certain people. If we have a wildfire that's on the edge of town and burns houses up, they're affected. So we're all in the same boat. We have limited resources and limited means to be able to help each other.
Oh, you know what to say to that? It just.
Well, again, what we're trying to do is find some help through this long-term recovery group and other areas that have had flooding and forest fires, that have seen major devastation to their communities, have used this same approach to find funding and help people through those times. So that's what we're trying to do.
I went to Pars Lumber and they gave a $300 thing. And I think I spent $200 and I had $150 left or something like that. And I came back, I think 2 days later because they didn't have the wood that I needed. And they told me it's done, it's over with. You can't have no more.
Yeah, I visited with Par Lumber and thanked them, for that. They partnered with the Lions Club for that. And I said, how did it go? And they said it was hard because some people would come and they kind of, without your name, they said they come and they get some. And then whatever's left of their allocation, by the time they come back, it's already been given out.
Right.
And they said in that regard, many people experience that disappointment, but and 350 doesn't necessarily go very far, but it was something, and
something helps compared to nothing.
They said it was hard to tell people that the money was already spent. Sometimes by the time someone finally hears about it, sometimes something's already.
I didn't hear about it until almost the end of it. That's where my problem was. And the only way I found out is through a friend of mine. And he told me, he said, Pars Lumber giving 300. And that was 3 days before they closed it off.
Right.
I mean, is there any way to communicate to people? I mean, I don't know.
I wish you'd let us know.
If you figure it out, let us know, because we can't do anything in this community. It seems like without people coming back saying, I didn't know about it. I didn't know about it.
You didn't know about it?
No, I'm saying that's what people tell us.
Yeah, right. And I didn't.
And we use the paper, we use the radio, we use social media.
I don't have that.
Yeah. So unless we go out and knock on doors and put flyers on everybody's door every time we want to send a message, I don't know how else to do it.
No, I understand that. I
Yeah.
mean, that's totally understandable. I'm just trying to find out what boat am I in? Should I stay? Should I go? And
That's very sad to me, as I just think about people in situations similar to yours that if I were in their situation and my home is basically not livable or whatever, and I don't have the savings or the resources to fix it, I didn't have insurance or insurance didn't go far or whatever, how do you dig out? How do you repair? I guess that's could be said anywhere in any community, in any state,
insurance
is
companies
that you're
don't
either,
even cover floods. over
right. So, if
So
you're in a
it's almost
floodplain,
like you can't really get insurance. Not unless the place burns down.
Yeah. Flood insurance is a very odd duck because you can't get it unless you're in a floodplain. And if you're in a floodplain, you don't have it, and obviously you're not going to have any coverage. But over the years of people that I've known that have lived in floodplains and had flood insurance, it's hard to get anything out of them as well.
I was just sad by seeing like two women. And they showed their house. It was flooded up to the cabins. And I said, wow, man, that is devastating. And there's no help for them. Nothing.
and the concern that my conversation at Par Lumber was, if depending on how their home was flooded, for how long, etc., if the support joists were underwater for 3 days or more, it's not going to be a stable structure. And and then if it wasn't quite that bad, you have to get all the bad stuff out, and you got to spray to make sure the mold doesn't come, or you're going to have it. And some people aren't going to do that, and they're going to move back in, and they're going to experience.
And it can
health
happen
issues.
again, and you're gonna be right in the same boat. It's not like,
But they have no options,
right,
so it's a very sad situation. It is. All I know, all three of us, has been heavy on our mind. We don't have an answer.
and there's no way of Portland helping to where you can get money from the state or federal.
We're trying.
Our local representative, state representative and state senator for our area have been working very hard to get some emergency funds over here but I don't know to what extent they're going to be usable for, whether it's just going to be infrastructure needs, damages that occurred to the infrastructure, whether, sewer
I know.
and
I
roads.
heard about that.
So I don't know what the allowable uses are going to be for it yet. I haven't seen it in writing yet as to if we do get it in funds, what we can use it for.
I'm figuring maybe another 6-7 months, you guys should hear something.
Well, on emergency funds, we hope to find out within the next 2 months. Any funds that'll come through the legislative process could be into fall before we know for sure, because the governor's got to sign any bills that are passed and
So
whatnot.
you'll hear something by then?
Well, we'll know what's been passed through the House and through the Senate, but it's still sitting on the governor's desk to be signed. Everything still has to be signed, and hopefully it has an emergency clause that kicks in the funds right away. So there's a lot of different variables on getting assistance from the state. Portland's not going to send us a check.
I'll probably send you that.
They'll send us some homeless people.
What's that?
They'll send us some homeless people.
Yeah,
I,
I'm just devastated by this, I mean, never expected it,
as a
never saw it coming.
as it relates to this topic, is a little bit of a go back. I am going over to McKenzie River Blue River community that was suffered from the holiday fire in 2020. I think it was.
It was 2023, the fire.
No, this one, the holiday fire
Oh.
over in McKenzie River Gorge. Anyway, they've created the long-term recovery group. They came here and spoke to our group, and once a year they have a a tour of what they've done so far, which is compiled of a lot of different state officials and department heads and whatnot. Same people that we're gonna be working with through our recovery. So I thought maybe it'd be a good opportunity to go and get personally acquainted with those individuals as we start this process.
Particularly interested to what you may hear about the nonprofit manufactured home entity that makes some reasonably priced manufactured homes.
Which those are great, but you gotta have someplace to put them.
Yeah,
You gotta have someplace to
I mean-
park them.
yeah, exactly.
The county has one foreclosed piece of property in city limits that we could put one on. You know, and it all comes down to dollars and being able to buy, and what are you gonna do with them? How long are they gonna be there? Are they gonna be turned over to personal purchase?
We're examining things. We don't have answers for you.
And that's why I'm trying to be patient, that do I keep dumping money into my place, or do I just set it on fire, and watch it burn?
That's a personal decision. That's one you're gonna have to make.
I'm looking for some help here, that, I understand it's a personal decision, but yet I'm looking for help. And.
I wish we had it to give to you, but we don't. I do, I truly do.
Appreciate it. Only thing I can do is come here, talk. Hopefully somebody will hear me, but it seems like my dad told me, goes one ear and out the other.
Well, when I talk to anybody at the state level, I'm gonna tell them to watch the last 20, 30 minutes of our county court session and hear your story. Cause it's recorded, it's on.
I appreciate it, and I don't even know what to say anymore. It's just like, I poured already $21,000 into my roof. I said, man, that's a lot of money. And then to come to find out, the county, the place I live at, wasn't inspecting the place that was being built. And goofy old me, I started tearing the sheetrock off, and because I had to redo it all because I had rain droppings because of the way he done the roof. And I said to myself, because I did my place in Salem, I paid $94,500 for it. When I was done with it in 8 years, I sold it for $360,000. Me and my wife are getting divorced. I gave her money. I said, I'm gonna come move out of here. Moved out here. I said, well, looks like I got a problem. So what I thought I'd do is try to recorrect the problem. And the guy who built the place did an add-on, was never inspected. No county people came to look at it. They took pictures of it because they saw it being built, but nobody inspected it. And that thing is off like there's no tomorrow. I got pictures of it. He doesn't even frame it right.
Yeah, a lot of unpermitted work done on places.
Why would the county let them get away with it? That's my question.
Our policy is if our building department becomes aware, whether they see it or someone mentions to them there, hey, there's some unpermitted work going on in that community, then our building department official has an obligation, put a stop order and get it corrected so it'll be within standards. But if they don't happen to drive by and see it happening and nobody's filed a
I got
complaint,
pictures of it.
well, the
Of them
community
taking
needs to
pictures of
let
it
them
being
know,
built.
because we're in a different time frame here in the county and have been for a while, where we do care about not letting that happen for safety reasons and for, the value of the home.
I'm correcting everything that he done wrong.
I hear you.
And it's just a shame that they would let something like this happen. And nobody could tell, because you can't tell behind the sheetrock what's been done, how the wiring's been done. They were using staples to staple up the sheetrock.
What year was that done? Just curious.
I'm sorry?
About what time frame were those,
Was the work done?
the work done?
Oh, I couldn't tell you. I moved in summertime of 2022. But I came over and talked to the county. And they said, oh yeah, we got pictures of it. I said, really? I said, can I have them? They gave me the pictures of the county watching them build it.
Hmm.
And nothing was done. I said, wow, this is really amazing.
Well, we have a new building official in place now, since after that. So hopefully those kind of things won't happen anymore.
Whoever built it needed to learn about construction because he absolutely knew nothing.
Well, we're sorry for your loss, sir. We're doing what we can through whatever means we have.
Appreciate it.
And
I really do, whether you think so or not.
no,
You know, in my heart, I'm gonna still keep on tackling because I got money into it. I got 2 bathtubs, I got 2 sinks, I got all the paneling I done on the wall and stuff to repair what he done. And everything is done correctly, but because that's just me. You know, it has to be done right. And I appreciate everything you guys are doing, but it's like, it's not enough or it's too little, too late.
I understand.
We feel the
Yeah.
same way.
I'm not trying to sit here and bark at anybody. All I'm trying to do is find out what are my options.
So the long-term recovery group is going to be facilitated, or at least right now, through the Harney Hub.
Yeah.
And you might check with the Harney Hub periodically to see if there's if anything's been created or any assistance is available.
I would check with them.
Okay.
But when I was with Red Cross, like I said, Red Cross passed me over to the veterans. And the veterans, I called them and they called me back. And they said, well, are you handicapped? I said, no. You know, I'm not in no wheelchairs because they said, well, we'll build you a ramp. And we'll do certain things like if your post or when you're coming down the stairs, if your post rattles or whatever, I'm way beyond that. You know, I don't have no plumbing in the house. I had to take off all my skirting around the house. I had to, once I took the skirting off, you can see where the jacks were supposed to hold it up. They're leaning on the side. I'm saying, this is way beyond, you know, and when he added onto the building, he attached to it. So that means you can't jack that place up to recorrect it. So it's just like, it'd be great if they dropped the bomb on it. That's the only way I can put it.
Yeah.
And that's sad.
All right, sir. Well, we're gonna have to wrap it up here today. So,
I appreciate your time,
all right.
but I will be coming back.
All right. All right.
I thank you.
Thank you. Any other business? Hearing none, county court shall stand adjourned.